August 25th, all in Wembley Stadium in London, England. In the main event, the world heavyweight champion Swerve Strickland is going to defend that title against Bryan Danielson, one of the greatest of all time, and a man that we know his time is coming to a close in that professional wrestling ring. What can we expect in that main event? Well, if I've got some questions, who better to ask than the champion himself? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland to the show, man. Thank you so much, Swerve. Thanks for taking the time, brother, to sit down and chop it up with me a little bit.
No problem, man. Thank you. Just got off the plane, and I'm right here in the hotel doing media for the day, and tomorrow morning as well, getting ready for Dynamite, Norfolk, Virginia.
You're in Virginia. Where'd you come from, Swerve? Where'd you get in from?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay. And you're in Virginia now, getting ready for the show. Let me just get to know you a little bit, because this is the first time I've had the pleasure to sit down and chop it up with you. So I want to get to know you a little bit, ask you, how you got to be the world champion. What route did Swerve Strickland take? Now, you were born in Tacoma, Washington, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and your father was in the Army, and you moved to an American military base in Germany. What was that like for you growing up there? I'm sure probably weren't a whole lot of kids that looked like you there at that time, right? The language was a little bit different. What was your time like growing up as a military kid?
I lived on American military base over there, so I was around a lot of a small community of Americans.
Okay.
They were all military fathers, military mothers, stuff. So we were all pretty much together in a lot of sense. So I grew up pretty multiverse in like different cultures, and like going outside the base and stuff like that. I would go to in town in Germany, in Frankfurt,
Mm-hmm.
and Budigen and Hanau and other places like that. And I got to witness other parts of the world at a very young age in Europe. So I was very fortunate. My father was in the military for about 20 years, was a cook in the Army, and he served over there during Desert Storm time.
Okay.
So him and my mom met when they were in I believe Tacoma, Washington, stationed out there. My mother was actually doing some other work out there, and they end up meeting each other.
And the rest is history, as they say. So you spent some time out there, and then you moved to Pennsylvania, right? Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we came back and moved to York, Pennsylvania.
York, okay.
A majority of my mom's relatives on that side of the family are.
I'm from Altoona, so I have a little bit of familiarity with that side. But that's Amish country, right? Kind of in that area.
Yeah, Lancaster, pretty much.
Okay,
that's kind of where around that area. That's where Adam Cole grew up, and York is close to where Rich Swann grew up as well.
Okay. I think I got back in college, I got a fake ID taken from Lancaster College back then. So that's really my only thing that I can connect those two with, was losing my fake ID back then. Now, surely after high school, you followed in your dad's footsteps, correct? And you joined the reserve. Was that,
Yeah, it was mainly my mother. She was a military recruiter, a civilian recruiter.
Okay.
And she put my sister into the military. She's still in the military till this day, actually. She just became a warrant officer.
Oh, word.
So she went in about 2-3 years before me. She ended up stationing us in the exact same company in 254th Quartermaster in York, Pennsylvania. So I kind of was like underneath my older sister at the time. She became sergeant, and I came in as a private.
So you never were able to really escape the older sister telling you what to do, is what it sounds like.
No, not really. But I still had the older sister. She was like, still had her. She was like she had a different team leader responsibilities. So kind of like where I wasn't necessarily under her directly in the same group and under the same team leadership. I was like kind of off into another little, team lead, another group and stuff, another company, whatever. But we would always see each other every time we had drills.
Okay. Now, let's go back to high school real quick. Now, you participated in football, basketball, and track and field. What would you say back then was your best sport?
Football primarily, I would say. If I would have like trained harder and like really focused on my body and really taken the training to the next level like I do now and later in my life and my career, stuff like actually trained like a professional, I probably would have gone a little bit further than just high school football. I probably would have been probably in college and doing other things like that.
What position were you?
Yeah, but wide receiver and cornerback, but also got to I was a physical hitter, so they put me at outside linebacker sometimes too.
All right, so what NFL player was your guy back then that you watched and tried to emulate your game after?
I was a big Marshall Faulk fan.
Oh, bet. Okay.
So I thought I was like growing up. I thought I always wanted to be running back, but I had a slender, taller body, and so I wasn't like better. I was better placed for outside and receiver. And my dad used to like play catch with me all the time and like throw the ball hard. So I was like, I had great hands at the time, like growing up. And so it was always better for me to play wide receiver and cornerback, and I had good footwork.
Any players?
So like honestly, but emulating, if I was like I was a Rams fan, so probably Torrey Holt, guys like that. I met Michael Irvin because my older cousin on my dad's side of the family, Fred Strickland, played for the Cowboys. Right, yeah. So I got to be, so I got to go to the Cowboys games and meet Fred Strickland, meet my cousin, meet Deion Sanders, meet Michael Irvin. Just recently, I got to meet Troy Aikman at Sunday Night Football when they played. The Jaguars had the Sunday Night Football game this year. Tony Khan introduced me to the whole Sunday Night Football team, so I got to meet Robert Griffin III.
Okay.
And and Troy Aikman. I got to meet Kurt Warner finally. I was like, wow, there he is. There's the guy.
So would you consider yourself a Cowboys fan too, or just some of these legends of the Cowboys that you were meeting?
I was a fan of the players.
Okay.
Primarily. There was never like teams I hated or players I hated because they played for certain teams. I just enjoyed good players.
That makes sense. So let me ask you, when did that wrestling bug hit you? When was the first time that that you saw it on TV or maybe in person? You went, yo, this is something I like. And then when did it get to the point where you're like, yo, this is something I might want to do?
It was, I was a fan of like 12 years old. I was like a lot of friends of mine in high school really introduced me to it, like watching it to the point of watching it steadily every week. It was like the table talk at the cafeteria the next day. If you missed out on it, you would miss the entire conversation. And so all my friends in high school, we just like gather around after work, after school, and like just like watch wrestling and play the video games. And after I came back from my military training, is when like I went back to my friend's house and all that, and I like ended up renting a room for a while, and it wasn't long, maybe like 6 months, if that, and getting a job, and I was still like really watching wrestling and was really into it, and then I just got motivated one day, just be like, it was just like light bulb went out in my head, and it was just like, oh, like you should try this. At least you have military to back you up on, and at least you have something to fall back on in case this doesn't happen, but chase something. So I packed up my stuff and I moved down to Richmond, Virginia. I got started training that week in Ground Zero Wrestling.
And you were still enlisted at that point, right? So you had to take bookings that were near the base?
I took bookings wherever I could. I got in the car. I was an Army reservist. Yeah, I was a reservist, so I still had like a civilian lifestyle as well. I just did the one weekend out of the month, and I just like decided to just go for it. I got a job, started to school in ITT Tech. Went there for like maybe a 1 year, and I didn't end up finishing. I just ended up putting all my focus into wrestling and just making enough money to pursue wrestling. And then my oldest daughter was born at the time, and then so that made things a lot more complicated and more difficult. Put another challenge to it, but it's honestly that became more my motivation than anything, because it was like, okay, this has to work now. This has to succeed. I have no choice but to make this like count. Every booking had to count. Every dollar had to stretch. Every match I had to lead to another match, had to lead to somebody seeing it and be footage. to get me booked to the bigger places, get me booked to the get seen and become my resume. You know what I mean? So that was the indie grind that I actually do miss to a certain extent, but I'm happy that it got me to where I'm at now.
I see. And how tough was that to balance the family life and having to go out and, take these spots, leaving the family, but also, I mean, like you said, you knew that you had a bigger vision, right? But it must have been tough, right? Having to leave the wife and the family behind while you chase this dream.
It was difficult because it was hard for people to see the vision that you see for yourself. It's hard for them, especially when you're in a spot where you're like not making a lot of money. Times are hard. Making ends meet day by day, check to check type living. Don't have a car. And the baby has to eat first,
always,
primarily, So it's really hard to try to envision what could be to somebody else who's not really could only see what's in front of them, the struggle right now. And that's for anybody. It's hard, but it's your dream and it's your vision for a reason. You can't always force someone to see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I had to learn. That was the hard lessons I had to learn, even with sisters and mothers and relatives close to you and stuff, people you grew up with. You end up kind of passing by and moving on and leaving them behind a little bit because they don't push as hard as you have to, and it's easy to slow down for someone else. But sometimes it's if they're not keeping up with you, not trying to push as hard as you are, and sometimes it's you can't let that slow you down. And it may sound a little harsh and cruel, but just that's how you make it in this business or any business. And wrestling, it just has a lot of pitfalls and a lot of roadblocks that can trip you up along the way. Simple, easy, and it's only gotten more difficult in today's world than it did 15 years ago.
Yeah, you said it might sound harsh and cruel, but not really, because we all have that journey that we all have to go on, and sometimes that journey is going to take you away from these people who have always been there for you. But like you said, you had a vision and you had to follow it. With your parents and your family, were they supportive? Did they understand the wrestling lifestyle and the business, or were they just what are you doing with yourself?
They learned as time went on. But I always say, I've been saying it for years, and it still rings true to this day. People want results first, and that's just not possible to do. So when you think up this harebrained scheme to jump into a pro wrestling grind, journey, career path, they don't know how it starts. They don't know how it works. They don't know how. If it exists, they don't pro wrestling and the independent level is just so underground. People don't realize it's happening in their own cities or around the corner from their own house. So to open that world to them and to let them know I'm only getting paid $25-$50 for it. They think it's the dumbest thing on earth. And it's what's the point? What is it worth it? Throwing your body around. And it's hard to get them to understand this is what gets me to this.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to do that is to necessarily just show them. You have to show proof, and then they go back and be like, "Oh, now I understand why you were doing all those things. Now I understand what your point of was all that." And it's well, now I'm in a different place in my mind and in my life now, because especially with you, there's a little bit of resentment because you didn't believe in me from the beginning. You didn't believe in the goal. I did. I set this out for myself. So it's a little hard relationship wise to see with them on that level, because they weren't in those car rides. Even if they were supporting in some way, which a lot of times my family was, they supported in certain ways of providing shelter, providing helping me out with gas money sometimes, helping watch my kids while I had to go do certain things and train. And all these things, they helped a lot along the way, and I always appreciate them. But it was still me that had to get in those cars. It was still me that had to get in that ring. It was still me that had to take those bumps and take those have all these scars. I had to go out there and do all those things, and there's a lot that they don't know that I had to do, So relationships always get like kind of severed, then repaired, then severed, then repaired because of that push and pull dynamic with supporting someone's dream chase.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes it comes around later on, but I have a really tough family because they're one of the family that's really tough to say sorry. You know.
Okay. You know, but I'm sure at the end, and obviously you're not anywhere near the end, but it comes to a point when you look back and the pride you must feel, even though they may have doubted you. And I'm sure the pride that they feel in you because you've accomplished so much. I'm sure that, you know, you kind of come together and it's just a source of so much joy to be like, wow, you did it. We didn't see it, but you did it because you saw it.
Yeah, we've had moments of that for sure. It's not like a big celebration too much, but we've had moments of that, and that we're proud of we're really proud of what you've accomplished and how you got here. But a lot of times I feel alone in my own head sometimes in that, and where it's not like I know the real behind certain praise.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not necessarily like we're proud that you made it. Like, we're just proud you didn't fail. And sometimes
I get that.
And it's also kind of a little bit of, I would say, you were proven wrong, and they were afraid to chase theirs, so they don't think you can chase it. They're like, family is kind of probably the hardest to detractors to really maneuver through because they want the best for you.
Yep.
So they don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you scarred up. They don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you broke 20 years from now from chasing a dream. They don't want to see that. But that's also like, the support is what matters the most. And I preach that for anybody that's listening. The support, no matter what, is what matters the most. Like, even if you like, let your kids go out and get scraped up, beat up, like, let them take those lumps, let them develop that Kevlar, become Teflon in this world, and anything, not just chasing a dream, but like anything. This world is going to beat you up a little bit, but coddling them and telling them, no, don't do this, don't take this route, is only going to shield them from the world. And then you want them to attack the world, not the world to attack them.
That's great. And you know, you become a little bit tough when you're allowed to go out there and you're not coddled, because like you said, the world is hard, and, you know, things aren't always going to go your way. And if you're a little soft out there, it's going to make it even harder for you to get through the day, you know? So I completely understand that. You know, myself personally, I moved from Pittsburgh to Los Angeles back in August of '99. I decided on Monday that I was going to leave, and then I left the next Monday. So having to kind of tell my family that was tough. And of course, you know, you're going 3,000 miles from home. You don't know anyone out here. You know, the family's a little bit, you know, like, are you sure that this is the right decision? And Swerve, I got to be honest with you, I wasn't sure. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I had this pull that told me I needed to go. If I didn't do this, I'd be regretting it my whole life. So I completely understand what you're getting at. And also, there were people that I worked with that told me, oh, you'll be back, you know? And it was just like, all right, right off the bat, you're just going to dismiss me and my goals and my dreams just because, as you said, you couldn't do it or you didn't take the chance. So that's a lesson to be made right there. It's, if you've got a dream, you've just got to go out and chase it, bro, you know? But you mentioned the car ride, and I want to get to that with you because so many wrestlers tell these stories of, you know, being on the road and the car trips. And I know you grinded, man. You grinded a lot on the indie circle, working with a lot of people that you're working with today. You have some great stories that you can share from the road, some of the guys that you took those trips with. Just, you know, something that makes you look back and smile when it was just, you know, man, we just got $25 for that match, but it was the time of our lives.
Yeah. It was like, there's a couple, probably definitely going down from the Philadelphia, New York area, getting in car rides all the way to Florida. And like Joey Janela was in those car rides, John Silver, Papa Don, I'm trying to think of some other guys that were in there, like just crazy long drives, and like you're driving from Philly all the way down to Florida. You get to like Carolina, and you're like, wait, are we getting paid for this? And you're like, oh, I don't know. It was just a great opportunity though. And that was doing the Jeff Peterson Cup tournament. That's where I wrestled ARFox for the first time. And that's where Gabe first discovered me. And then he put me on to wrestle ARFox again later on. And that was like 2010. And little did we know that was going to be my rival in the independents and like Lucha Underground years to come. And that was at the time where he was having these crazy matches with Ricochet. So a lot of people saw them as the rivals. Those were the guys that have like the rival on the indies. But then like me, I was slowly creeping up there years later when they came to Lucha Underground and doing what we did there. So that was some of them. There was a time where like we did get pulled over in Georgia. We rented a Lincoln Navigator, a big truck, and they thought we had drugs. And we were driving all the way through the night, and it was like 5 a.m. We got pulled over, and ARFox was driving, and he had weed on him. So that was like one of those like, oh man, we're not. That's your main event for the night show. So like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So they were just like, no, we're just making sure you're not smuggling like big cases of cocaine and $10,000.
Yeah.
They're like, if you have weed on you, just throw it out and you guys can go. And that's what happened. So, and then we made it to the show and had a good weekend.
All right. Did you go back and pick it up though? That's the question.
They watched them like dump it like freehand, like all the way. I don't smoke, but yeah, like Tony Nese was in the car with us on that show too. So like a lot of guys see every day and see every week. Those guys go back 10 years with me.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the rosters of the places. I'm like, well, this guy's in AEW and this guy's in AEW. So that familiarity must be pretty cool to see how far you all have come. But, you mentioned Lucha Underground. I wanted to talk to you about that, man. That was just so innovative and such a dope concept. How was your time there in Lucha as Killshot?
It was the first time challenging to get on television. That was the first time I really had to, I realized my athleticism isn't what's going to win people over and win the office over to get me on television. I have to create and think and really get creative and really jump outside the box. And so for me, everybody was so fluid. You had like Aerostar, you had Phoenix and Penta that really got established big time by the time I got there. Like Ricochet, John Morrison, Angelico, Jack Evans. The roster was just stacked of some of the best luchadors, the most fluid wrestlers that you could see at the time and still to this day. So it's like, okay, I could try to run this race of being as good as these guys at what they do as far as the athleticism. But even if I was running with them, I wouldn't be as good as those guys at it. So I had to figure out, okay, what if I go the other way? What if I got like brutal? What if I got more like mean? What if I got more aggressive? So I flipped it and went to my military combatives style of wrestling, a lot more grappling based, a lot more strike heavy, a lot more like putting submissions on to hurt rather than make them submit. It just changed the whole dynamic of how my character approaches things, how my character works. Then people started understanding the Killshot character more of what he would do, his motive, what he's fighting for. It changed everything about the dynamic of the character and the persona, and the environment only helped with that.
Right.
That's where.
I mean, it was amazing. Everything that went on there.
It's kind of like that's where Weapons of Mass Destruction came from with me versus Marty the Moth. He had something that I valued, which was my dog tags, which was part of the character that I added to it. And then that character created Dante Fox, someone from my past, coming into Lucha Underground into the Temple that led to Hell of War. So just that thought process changed the show in a sense.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Hell of War, because, you mentioned ARFox. You guys had this Hell of War match, and this match was insane. I'm sure you've heard it hundreds of times. I mean, ESPN said it was, and I quote, one of the most brutal contests to ever be televised in professional wrestling. We're talking plain glass. We're talking barbed wire, ladders, chairs. when you guys are putting that match together, bro, like what's the mindset of you and ARFox as you're getting ready to go put on this match?
Well, first we're like, do we have enough? I don't know if we have enough. I think we have enough because we're trying to we're at the point of okay, this is Ultima Lucha Trace. And we're like, there's been some crazy matches. The bar is already high enough. What do we do to not only just raise it? What do we do to etch our name in it where people want to try to they can't copy this because it's us. There's no way you can copy this feeling and this energy. And so we're just coming up with concepts to just this only works if Fox is in this position. This only works if Killshot is in this position. And I think that's what clinches that match so close to us and why the fans are attached to it so long. Even years later, they still talk about it because it's man, those guys is it had to be them. There's no other way. It almost feels like Frieza fighting Goku on planet Namek. There's no other fight that can happen to blow up that planet to end it because it had to be them. You couldn't replace it with Yamcha. You couldn't replace it with Captain Ginyu. You couldn't replace it with Frieza. You couldn't replace it with Vegeta. It had to be those two. And that's what the mindset of it was, that you if you see these moments in the match, and you just take the characters out and you just have a silhouette of empty, that was Killshot, that was Fox.
And bro, I rewatched that match, and first of all, thank you. As someone who's been a wrestling fan my whole life, you watch some of these matches and it's crazy. I always say this, Swerve, some people get wrestling, some people don't get it. Why you still watch wrestling, blah, blah, blah. But my thing has always been this. If it's someone who's a wrestling fan, you never have to explain to them why you love wrestling so much, right? Because it's obvious. But if someone doesn't like wrestling, no reason you give them is going to be good enough. They just don't get it. So for me personally, that's the love I have for wrestling. When I see people put their bodies through stuff that, honestly, rewatching that match, I was like, guys, why'd you do this? Thank you, but why'd you do this? So it's just, it's a beautiful thing to see sometimes. I mean, the violence is so graphic and it's so brutal, but it is also beauty in what you guys go out and do. And in that match in particular, it just,
there's an art to it.
Tremendous art.
It's the art of destruction. For sure, you could say it's almost like Mad Max. There's so much destruction. It's ugly. It's gritty. It's it's
scary.
But it's scary. It's dangerous. It's violent. But at the same time, it's there's so much beauty to this. Yeah. The cinematography, the capture, the story, the elements of the characters, the war, the them fighting through the pain. Them fighting through, trying to overcome, trying to one up each other. To me, it was I always put Weapons of Mass Destruction is one of the pinnacle moments of my Lucha Underground career, because that was a story of, if you watch it, it's a story of a character that won't quit and a character that won't lay down, and then the story of Killshot and Dante Fox was a story of, this guy is just like you, but better. How do you beat that? It's Wolverine and Sabretooth. How do you beat someone who's literally just like you and knows you, and he's better than you in every aspect of it? Because if you remember the ending, I was losing. I was very much losing the match. It was his ego that cost him, and that's how I defeated him, his ego. Because he knew he was better. He had me.
And that's also a little life lesson too. Your ego is not your amigo, as someone once told me back in the day. So that's just something to think about. So yeah, going back to the Hell of War, I was so relieved when you tossed him into the ambulance and shut the door. I was like, thank God this is over, because these two guys.
That's how I felt. That's how I felt too.
I'd imagine so, brother.
It was we did it. we finally did it because the on air, like real life, the match was like 45 minutes to an hour, but y'all got a 35-minute condensed version of it, 36 minutes. So we were actually like out there for a while, like 15 minutes longer than what y'all actually saw.
That's crazy. What's it like in the back when that match is over and you see your peers and everyone back there, man? What's the response and reaction to that?
That was one of the few times like we just stayed down there in the pit.
Oh,
The fans emptied out, they went their way, but we just stayed down there. We got hosed down, we got medical, like alcohol and peroxide just thrown on us. They didn't even try to wipe us down; they just threw it on us. And the crew came down to us, and they said that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Dorian Rodan from AAA came down and he was like, you guys should be so proud of yourselves. You guys made history." And we were just like, wait, did we? We didn't. It was one of the moments we just didn't understand how high we set the bar, and what do we like accomplish as two black men on American television did for like that style of wrestling, you know? And because they didn't look at it, people didn't look at it as like a garbage match, and like they didn't look at it as like hardcore. They was like looked at it like, man, these guys are two athletic warriors that hate each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's all we asked for.
Damn, man. That's what's up. That's what's up, man. So after that, you briefly, we'll cut into, you spent some time in WWE and NXT. You were the North American champion, member of the group Hit Row. Got called up to SmackDown. Things didn't work out there. Why do you think that things just didn't work out in that
political moves. Yeah. Just political moves. Like I say, I just leave it as political moves, you know.
Because it seemed like, you know,
it's political,
and you do hear that quite a bit in the world of professional wrestling. So let's move on. All Elite Wrestling, March of 2022. You signed with AEW. What is your thought process going into signing your contract? Like, what were you expecting out of AEW?
Opportunity and time, and it was once again one of those things of like all the possibilities that could go on here. Like I'm rewarded that I'm afforded the opportunity, and that's all I've ever needed. That's all I've ever been given, just an opportunity. You know, I worked my way up from the bottom. I don't care. Like, put me in battle royals. I'll lose them all. I don't care. Just give me the opportunity to show out.
Yeah.
Give me opportunity to like, okay, cool. Like, hey, can I get a minute of TV time right here in this spot? Absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna make something matter. That's something that you just can't ask for anywhere else. You can't just ask for a minute and get it. That's really tough. Like, I don't care if it's like Dynamite, Rampage, or Collision, or Ring of Honor. Getting television time forwarded to you is valuable. It's up to you what you do with it. And I don't care what nobody says or how social media wants to downplay how much time someone gets. It's about opportunity, because there's a lot of people out there that I know are very, very, very talented that could dream of getting a minute's worth of television opportunity.
That makes sense, you know, and I used to always hear wrestlers say, I may get 3 minutes on the show, but I'm going to make this the best 3 minutes of that entire program. And I think, like you said, that's the mentality you got to have. You got to make the most of every second, because that will help grow you. And it'll give, I guess it gave Tony confidence in you that, you know, you stepped up and everything that was asked of you, and probably things that weren't asked of you. You knocked them all out of the park. And I'm sure that's something that helped really...
It was also a relationship that I had to build with Tony in All Elite Wrestling. It wasn't always about me and what I wanted, and I had to learn that too. Midway through my tenure in AEW, I had to learn. I was like, you know what is it that Tony needs? What can I provide that Tony needs right now that he's looking for and he just can't find it, or there's nobody to offer it to him? Like, what does he need? Okay, he needs to be in tags. I'll go in tags. Cool. What does he need? He needs someone to face. He needs a great challenger to face Orange Cassidy for the All Atlantic Championship, going into International Championship. He needs a great challenger for him. Give it to me. I'll do it. All right. We need a good match out of Sting. So we need something big for him. Swerve can do it. Yes, I can. And that's what built the relationship of just like, put me anywhere, I'll make it work. Put me anywhere, I'll give you what you're looking for. What do you need? Okay, you need someone in Nashville 2 weeks ahead of schedule to promote this. Hey, could you make this TV spot? Could you do this promotion? Can you do something for TNT? Can you do something for TBS? Can you do something for Warner Brothers? Can you speak highly of so and so? Could you say this? Could you I'll be there. Hey, could you be there for Jacksonville Jaguars games to be on the field to talk with so and so? Can you be there? Could you be there? Yep. And I think that relationship is where it garnered me the trust and the equity in the company and with Tony to not only just to be in the position to face off with Bryan Danielson at Wembley. All those things add up. And it's the things that people just don't want to do, I'll do it. I'll be the team player. I'll be the face. I'll say face, and I'll be that guy.
And that helps you to get to where you are right now. Now, you spoke about tag teams. You and Keith Lee won the tag team championships. After that, you've had some great feuds. You've elevated people. I didn't know much about Nick Wayne until you broke into his gym and bloodied him up. And now look at him. He's a champion. You know, you've created Mogul Embassy. You've had just great feuds. Like you said, you got to wrestle Sting at last year's All In. What was that like to be able to share the ring with an icon like Sting?
Once again, one of the highest honors you can have in pro wrestling. You know, one of the biggest trusts you can have as a company person on the roster in AEW. Bucket list for me, something I never thought was possible. You know, I didn't think Sting was going to be coming back to wrestling, let alone All Elite Wrestling, and I didn't think I'd be the one to be in the ring with him in front of 80,000 people, along with one of my great friends, like outside of wrestling with Darby Allin. Me and Darby hang out outside of wrestling all the time. Like, I'm there for his Nitro Circus stuff when he does flips off of ramps in tricycles, you know. You know, I'm always there with him. And tagging with someone I've literally studied in pro wrestling as far as like tag team wrestling and stuff, with tagging with Christian, that was a big moment for me as well. And it's like, that was just a great environment to be around. You know, there's nothing that could literally take that moment away from me and take that night away from me at all. And then later on that night, I took DJ Who Kid to the ring with me, him and Flash. Yeah. And then DJ Who Kid's like, oh, I know this rooftop party in London. We go down there, and it's hosted by actor Daniel Kaluuya. Yeah. So I got to hang out with him, have great free catering that whole night. And so, like I said, it's like just like the levels of the way the universe is just like spiraling in a positive way for me is just working in a positive way, just because like I truly give out my all. I put my all into everything outside of not just pro wrestling, but in everything I do.
I understand. I want to wrap this up with you quickly, Swerve, but I got to bring up April 21st, AEW Dynamite. You defeated Samoa Joe to become the champion. That championship belt sitting right next to you, the All Elite Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. Now, what does that mean to you to know that out of all the black wrestlers that have ever wrestled, such a small number have been entrusted to become the world champion, man? How's that make you feel?
You can literally count how many on two hands, which is crazy to think about. And I hopefully this sparks something in the next, generations to do more. To see more. We don't want to make it such a rarity. We want to make it a regular thing. And I point that out. I don't say like first black champion in AEW. I don't say like that as a thing, as a slight. I say it as something to be proud of. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud to hold that honor. It's very rare we get the first of anything nowadays, but I'm truly one of them. And it's just to advocate to push to see it more often, so it's not a first so many more times in 2020s. I want to see I do it for guys like a Big E who he can't do it anymore. That's somebody who should have been a multi-time world champion. I do it for guys that are like Kofi, who had to wait years in a company and get devoted 11 years of his time to finally get his. I do it for guys like that. Those are my motivators. a Bobby Lashley, someone who just looks so dominant the way he does, MVP, beside him, like with the Hurt Business, like with friends of mine, like Cedric, guy who I root for every single day.
Yeah.
I root for him every single day. I was literally one of his groomsmen at his wedding.
Okay.
Like I do it for those guys. I think about them all the time, and just finding my way to be solidified in that echelon of talent. But Swerve has this like part of the Hall of Fame locked
take that
down.
Away from you,
that's my way. Yeah. That's where I have it on lock, and you can't take that away. And like everybody's carved their path and has their own lane, but I created my own. I didn't follow in other footsteps. I did it my way, and I'm here.
That you did, my brother. Now, August 25th, All In. How do you make sure after that match with Bryan Danielson that you walk out with that title still around your shoulder?
Well, like I said, I've been being called the most dangerous man in AEW, and after talking about some of the craziest stuff I've done, you understand why. It's not just a saying; it's something that I prove. And that's what Bryan Danielson has to defend, not only his career on but that's something he has to defend his well-being on. I've done things that Bryan Danielson was not able to do here in AEW, and I've done it in dominant fashion. I'm proud of being in the position that I am. I think I'm the only Black world champion to ever main event Wembley Stadium. Cool. Check the sources on that, check the records, but I'm pretty sure, I'm in this position not because it's deserved, it's because it's earned. Every bit of it, my ability, my progression, my potential, my work ethic. Bryan Danielson sees that and understands that. He wouldn't stand across from just anybody. He's standing across this ring from me for a reason.
Swerve Strickland, I appreciate you so much, my brother, for sitting down and taking this time with me. Continued success. All the best at All In. Whose house?
Swerve's house, baby. Appreciate you.
My man. Swerve Strickland, everybody.
Also, check out that Motion Sickness album that me and Flash Garments just dropped, hosted by DJ Who Kid.
That's what's up. Next time I talk to you, Swerve, I want to get into music with you. I want to talk about who's in your dream rap cipher. So you got to come back and chill with me at some point.
Let's get it, man. Appreciate you.
My man. Swerve Strickland, everybody.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.